Mr. President, much is grown on Kansas plains. Crops and pasture stretch as far as the eye can see. Grain elevators replace a city's skyscrapers, and the whisper of the wind substitutes the screech of sirens and traffic. What truly makes the prairie special, however, is the people of the plains. Kindness and resilience define Kansans. Churches that seem entirely too big for the tiny towns they tower over are filled on Sundays. And neighbors are checking on each other, sharing food, sharing laughs, maybe sharing a cup of coffee and even a few beers. And perhaps this is why Senator Bob Dole reminded me every time I saw him, Roger, always remember where you're from. In every speech I ever heard him give, he always said, always remember where you're from. I've thought a lot about that this week. What was Senator Dole saying? Why was that so important? And I think, reflecting, he always wanted to make sure that he remembered his Kansas values and that the people of Russell, Kansas shaped his life, to pay honor to them and respect. This week, Kansans lost a great friend and neighbor. Senator Bob Dole, a personification of the gentle toughness cultivated in the rural Midwest, an advocate for the disabled, the hungry, our veterans, and our American way of life, a genuine, once-in-a-generation, from the greatest generation, American hero, has been called home. It was to these same plains that a young Robert Dole returned from war, critically wounded from injuries sustained in 1945 on a battlefield in Italy. The people of Russell had chipped in money, $1,800 to be exact, into a cigar box on the counter of Dawson's drugstore, where a young Bob Dole once worked as a soda jerk. These funds were used to help offset the cost of his recovery. And it was a grueling recovery. During his 3-year hospital stay, he spent time in a body cast. He fought horrible infections that shot his temperature to over 109 degrees, which forced the doctors to pack him in ice. He literally underwent dozens of surgeries on his shoulder, his arm, and even to remove a kidney. Bob Dole was once a strapping, muscular, 3-sport varsity athlete at Russell High School, as well as a KU Jayhawk athlete. Dole was now paralyzed, and his weight had dropped to 122 pounds. All the while, during listening to his recovery there in the hospitals, he listened to one of his new favorite songs, a source of inspiration, "You'll Never Walk Alone." And I quote from that Rodgers and Hammerstein classic, "Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone." Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. Americans know of Bob Dole's record of public service. Whether it was passing the Reagan agenda through the Senate, saving Social Security from bankruptcy, fighting hunger in the United States and abroad, the Americans with Disabilities Act, his work for veterans that includes the construction of the World War II Memorial, and so much more. Americans know of his time at the helm of the Republican National Committee, the United States Senate, and the party's presidential ticket. They may even be aware when in 2014, he regained the strength to travel and visited all 105 Kansas counties to simply say, thank you for the life they've given him. People may also know that most Saturdays of the past decade, Senator Dole quietly sat on the south side of the World War II Memorial to greet and thank veterans as the honor flights came to Washington, D.C. And it was only fitting that Kansans gathered there this morning to pay homage and respect and remember our hero. All of this he did with humility, with charm, and wit, that famous wit that made him so likable, so effective, and so Kansan. As we in the Capitol honor Senator Dole, I remember the days that followed his famous salute of President George H.W. Bush's casket in the Capitol Rotunda. A moment that inspired and captivated the world. when he, with the help of his caretaker and fellow veteran Nate, stood up from his wheelchair and showed his reverence for his once rival and friend. He, of course, didn't understand what the big deal was. He just wanted to honor a fellow veteran and public servant. It was just a reflex for him to show that respect, and his humility in its wake was his classic style. And I remember the morning earlier this spring when Senator Dole called me to tell me that he had stage 4 lung cancer. He wanted to make sure that my wife Lane and I knew before the press did. But all the while, what I remember from that conversation, how upbeat he was, how positive he was, worried about me and not himself. But he, again, beat the odds and spent more quality time with all of us. And every time I saw him, even up to just a couple weeks ago, he was always cracking jokes, imparting wisdom, and spending time with all of our friends. I'm so grateful for the blessing of each moment spent with him before and after that call, and I can't express what I would give for another one of those moments. As I know is true for his wife, our friend, Senator Elizabeth, and his most steadfast supporter and advocate, his daughter Robin. The same goes for his devoted staff, who are like family to the Doles. Whenever we visited the Doles, that staff were all family members. I want to mention my name: Pia, Marion, Mo, Ruth Ann, and so many more. We mourn your loss, and you're in our prayers. And there's so many scores of friends from all ages and all walks of life. So many people who have reached out to me this week to say, we're thinking of you, we're praying for you. Give the Dole family our condolences. But now his incredible work here is done, and I'm going to miss my friend. The boots that my fellow Kansas Senator and I have to fill are very large. But fortunately, he left me with some good advice to fill those boots. It was in 2017, shortly after I'd been elected, and I was facing my first tough vote. And Senator Dole and myself were able to have a late morning brunch. And I had my notes prepared. I was going to discuss this issue in great depth, and I was prepared for every one of Senator Dole's questions. But as I started the conversation, and he said, well, what's going on in the Hill? And I said, well, Senator Dole, I got a tough vote tomorrow. He took another sip of his lobster bisque, and he looked at me and said, Roger, go back to Kansas. The people of Kansas will tell you the answer. I know I'm going to never measure up to his standard. He set a tremendous bar for us to reach. And while Senator Dole is gone, the lessons we can all learn from his life will be lived out and passed on. Certainly this spirit, the spirit of Bob Dole, a spirit of patriotism, hope, honor, loyalty, respect, service, and genuine kindness and concern for others will never fade. One of the best days of my time in Congress was watching Senator Dole receive the Congressional Gold Medal in 2018 in our nation's Capitol Rotunda. It was a special honor. And as a freshman congressman, I had to kind of fight my way to the front row or near the front row, and I was surrounded by other members of Congress as well. And as the president recited Bob Dole's story, one by one they would look at me and nod. You know that nod you get when it's a nod of respect. You don't have to say anything. And I was so proud to be a Kansan, my chest puffed up, full of pride. It just made me so very proud to be there with a Kansan, to see this is what a congressman, a senator is supposed to look like. For months, as we led up to that event, his family and friends and staff watched as he struggled to regain strength after several more health setbacks. I remember the family didn't think he'd be able to attend. But much like the wounded Bob Dole in the 1940s, he was able to accept that award personally. He miraculously recovered like he had so many times before, and at that marvelous ceremony where he got to hear the gratitude of a nation, the song, You'll Never Walk Alone, was played. And I was close enough, I could see him mouth the words to the president, "This is my favorite song." And I was close enough that I could hear his voice, a voice we were all familiar with, sing along, softly sing these lyrics. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain. Though your dreams be tossed and blown, walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. For so many of us, Kansans, veterans, the poor and hungry around the world, farmers, the disability community, and more, we never walk alone. We thank you, Senator Dole, for walking beside us, always giving us hope. We love you, we miss you, and we thank you. God bless America. I yield the floor.